So, you like the Niners? So do we. Welcome to the So You Like the Niners podcast, a show all about the San Francisco 49ers. Here are your hosts, Rod V and Avery M. Welcome in, everybody, to the first ever episode of the So You Like the Niners podcast, powered by SoYouLikeSports.com. I'm Rod V. He's Avery M. We are beginning a brand new show out of nothing. We are two 49ers fans, and we love the 49ers. And I feel like it's time, Avery, to have another 49ers show out there because, let's face it,
yeah,
enough of them.
Yeah, there's not.
So, all right, Avery, I just want everybody to understand where we're coming from and what we're trying to do with this show. We're here to break down what we thought worked well, what we didn't like, what we're hoping to see more of out of each and every game so far for the rest of the season. And we'll obviously start with the Dallas Cowboys game as we get going. But first and foremost, got to get to know the hosts of the show, Avery. So let's talk first about you and where your love of the 49ers came from and why you are a diehard faithful.
It really just came down to being born into a Niners family and just kind of going with the flow until finally finding interest in the sport and becoming just a diehard.
I mean, that's kind of how it starts with everybody, right? That's how it started with me. Obviously, we're born from the same family. Spoiler alert. But yeah, I mean, as a kid, it was all Niners. I mean, of course, now, our uncles had some Raiders blood in there and a couple of Chargers out there as well. But, it was all a Niners fan for me. I grew up with it. I grew up in the 80s watching all of the greats, Montana, Rice, Clark, like all the guys that were just the best of the best, Super Bowl after Super Bowl after Super Bowl. We've lived through some dark times.
Yeah, definitely.
A lot of it. So it's been a lot of fun. I mean, what kind of memories have you made? I know you're relatively young in this Niners space, watching these Niners play.
A lot of playoff losses, but a lot of regular season dominations, and also just not consistent. But
yeah, welcome to the mid 2000s, my friend. That was all about the Alex Smith days. That was all about the days where we just couldn't find it. There was so many seasons. It was so rough.
It was. And like there were those fun times with Anquan Bolden, Michael Crabtree, with Colin Kaepernick in the early 2000s. But then that Super Bowl loss to the Ravens just really did something.
I watched that game at your house, by the way.
I remember that.
Oh, that was devastating. That was the year the power went out and everybody was just trying to figure out what was going on.
Yeah.
Fun. Although you were pretty young at that point, so
I was. I went to first grade the next day, and I was like, they lost by 1 point.
It was so sad. None of us could. I don't think any of us were in a very good mood that afternoon. We were all trying to put on a brave face, but it was not good. So
yeah.
All right, yeah. So we're both diehard faithful. We're both diehard Niners fans. We love the team. We love talking about the team, and frankly, we just don't get enough to do. We don't get to do enough of it between the two of us. So that's what we're here to fix, Avery. So let's talk about this season so far. I mean, we're joining kind of midway through the season. We've had a rocky start. I mean, we're 4-4 right now, right?
Yeah.
It's just been one of those things. We lose McCaffrey early. We lose a few pieces. Like, what's your takeaway so far this season?
Just all again with the inconsistency is just that, and also on top of injuries. So it's like you gotta find ways to get used to dealing with that, because it's been a consistent thing with the Niners, or there was one injury or this or that, and then it just all falls apart. I just think that at being 4-4, those losses to the Rams and the Cardinals were detrimental to the Super Bowl window, and I think these next couple games, it's either each game matters more than the next.
Well, and we've seen them start slow, and then we've seen them pick it back up before. So there's hope for this.
Exactly.
But, I don't want to go through this again.
No, like with the Jimmy Garoppolo and the Chiefs, and that year, we started out really. What was it 3-4 as well? or something like that. And then we somehow made it back at 10-7 or something like that. I couldn't remember, but we just need to have one of these glory seasons like we've had, and just hope for the best.
Well, and the tough part of it is that I don't know, and I'm trying to think back to even those early 2000 days, and we'd seen so many of these guys go down, and even recently with Jimmy Garoppolo, we'd lose him for half of a season, we'd lose Kittle for a couple of games here and there. I mean, it seems like every good player that we have, at some point, we don't have them for a better stretch of the season, and this team has
Yeah,
always tried to just go out and do good things without their key players. So, I mean, hats off to the organization for being able to build a depth to make it to where you can do that.
yeah,
But boy, I'd sure love to not have to do that anymore.
yeah. And it would be great if we could have our $30 million receiver out there, but instead he's rehabbing. But
You know,
you can't blame him. He can't blame him. He wasn't the one who hit himself in the knee. It's those damn Chiefs.
oh yeah, oh yeah. Well, your uncle, my brother, we're yeah.
Yeah,
That's on him and them. But yeah, no, look, and honestly too, when you talk about the talent of these guys and the amount of money on the roster right now that is on the bench because of injury, it hurts.
yeah,
It hurts because now we're playing with third, fourth string guys that, and we're glad to have pulled away with a win against Dallas the other day. That's for sure. We know how much we hate the Cowboys, and so to be
yeah.
able to get a win against them, that's clutch.
Yeah, I think so too.
So,
And like even these next games have to be even more clutch than the last in my eyes, because you can't lose any more of those need. Like, you're facing a team that's obviously not as talented as the Niners. It's a must win, even if it's in a hurricane Tampa Bay.
you
Like,
you have to win. You have to keep winning, not only for your record's sake, but for your sanity's sake, right?
exactly.
So yeah, I mean, look, when we talk about needing the Niners to win, it's almost like you have to run the table. An 11, 12-4, 13-4 record is what you're going to need to compete in the NFC nowadays, because these guys in their records, you need a 13-4 record. You need something competitive. You can't go in there limping in with, a 12-5 or, whatever it is. You can't do that anymore.
Yeah. It just consistency. And we might get CMC back. They said against Tampa like a couple weeks ago, but I don't really think that. Probably the next week against like the Bills or something. But even then, we're gonna have to like lower his carries and still like know how, and let Kyle Shanahan adjust to what, because he's not the greatest when it comes to adjusting to different players. Because we've seen when Debo's out, it's a entirely different game. And so I just think he needs to get better at that and figure out a way to get McCaffrey and Mason and Garendo involved when McCaffrey comes back.
Yeah, and it's tough because we've seen, I mean, we know McCaffrey, obviously his time with the Panthers was marked by injury too. And so
Yeah.
you always think it's not going to happen to me, right? This is not, it couldn't possibly happen to me. I'm going
Yeah.
to make it through unscathed, but it happened to us, man. And we really do have to learn how to deal.
Yeah. It gets worrisome at sometimes. Like, but with history tells the Niners can come through, but will somehow lose in the playoffs
God, or the Super Bowl. Let's
or
not
the Super Bowl.
put the knife in and turn it for that matter.
Yeah.
All right.
We'll beat the Packers though.
Well, that's what we always do. The Packers and the
No,
Cowboys.
yeah.
Right? Those are the two teams that, yeah. My daughter, she loves the Packers, and so it's, well, yeah. Your cousin
Yeah.
loves the Packers. I always hate breaking her heart every year, but I can't
Yeah.
get around it.
I
But
can't help it. It's
can't help it.
too fun.
It kind of is. All right, Avery, let's talk about the Cowboys game from this last weekend. I know we're about a week removed from it, but it's still fun to beat the Cowboys, and it's still fun to talk about beating the Cowboys. We do walk away
Absolutely.
from the game with a 30-24 win at home, defending home turf in prime time on Sunday night. Avery, how fun was it to watch that game, and how scared were you at the end?
I was more scared in the beginning than I was at the end. I'm gonna be honest. In the halftime, 10-6, I'm like, we better not score in the red zone again. Like we better get on the 21-yard line and score from there, or we're not scoring. It's 3 points. So when it was 10-6 in that first half, I was kind of scared. But when they came out in that third half and just drove on them, chunk play after chunk play, then I started to begin getting my faith back. And of course, Dak, just being Dak, finding ways to give the ball to the other team. It's amazing. Amazing to see. And the immersion of Diamador Lenore is also super clutch. And we're going to somehow have to pay him.
That's the thing. Open up your wallets, because all these guys, it just doesn't get any less expensive as these guys start to go better and better and better, and you start to turn into a championship caliber team. I mean, ask the Chiefs. They've been able to keep a few pieces around, but they're bleeding a little bit because these guys go to other teams and they get paid more.
Yeah, but they also hit on the draft picks like Trent McDuffie.
Yeah. Damn,
at the bottom of the first.
I mean, look,
just an elite corner.
When you know how to do it, you know how to do it, right?
Yeah. And also thanking the Bills for giving them Xavier Worthy.
Oh,
but don't worry, they got Keon Coleman.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, look, we didn't get any of those guys, unfortunately, but we do have.
We got Slick Rick.
We have that, and we have. Let's talk this. Let's talk it through how we liked the offense. First, we'll talk about the offense performances from them. Got to start, my friend, Brock Purdy, rock hard Brock. That dude carries through this guy. 18 of 26, 260 yards, that touchdown. But really, what came through, 8 carries and that touchdown. Brock Purdy used his legs.
Yes, he did, and I think he should use them more. He was too effective when running the ball. I think it was one of the biggest parts why we won, because some of those big plays we needed came off of his legs.
56 yards in total, 16 long, yeah.
Yeah, and he's no Josh Allen. He's not 6'5", but he could run. He looks good in shorts.
Yeah, he does. That smile. Okay, look, we've seen Jimmy G come through, right? We've seen the golden smile of Jimmy G. Who wears it better, Brock or Jimmy?
I mean, Jimmy G's got the classic.
Yeah, that dude just looks like a quarterback, right?
He does.
Yeah, there's no denying that.
He's like what was that Notre Dame quarterback?
Oh man, and now Brady Quinn.
No. He's on the Commanders right now.
Oh, I was gonna say that was before your time, I guess. That's a good question.
I forgot his name. I know his name. I just can't think of it right now. It reminds me of him.
Just looks like a quarterback. Just oozes quarterback machismo.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, so for Brock Purdy, this is just a typical day in the life of Brock Purdy. I mean, we know that he's accurate. We know that he's able to win games when he's on. And so I guess the thing is, for us, we have to just continue to hope that he's on, because we've seen it, Avery. We've seen it with Garoppolo. We saw it with even Alex Smith before that, where like when the quarterbacks that we get are good, they're really good. But when they're bad, they're really bad.
Yeah. Like, I remember, what was it, Nate Studfeld or someone like that? And because I just remember being on like Madden 17 or something, I see him as our quarterback, and I was like, bad memories. But when we do get a quarterback, he is really good, and I like it. Other than Trey Lance, that we gave up 3 first-round picks for.
Trey Lance, man,
what a story.
That's an experiment that I don't know that the Niners want back, to be honest with you.
I wanted Justin Fields, I'm not gonna lie.
I did too. I was 100%. And let's even go back farther than that. When Aaron Rodgers and Alex Smith, the jockey for them was back there, I was banging the drum for Aaron Rodgers all day long. I didn't want Alex Smith. Now, granted, I love Alex Smith as a human being, but like, I wanted Aaron Rodgers more. That's really more than I wanted.
Yeah.
So, Brock Purdy 3-0 against the Cowboys, including the playoffs, which is always a good thing. 118.4 passer rating, 726 yards, 5 touchdowns against these guys. Hey, listen, Brock Purdy has the Cowboys numbers, and that's really if you're a Giants fan, you beat the Dodgers. If you're an Army fan, you beat Navy. If you're a Niners fan, you beat the Cowboys. If you can do that, you're good in our eyes, right?
Oh yeah. 100%.
So, Brock Purdy, another good day. Happy National Tight End Day, by the way,
Happy
George.
National Tight End Day.
How about George Kittle?
Well, he's the Joker. What can you
dude,
say?
that dude can find the camera no matter where it's at, right? He
Mm-hmm.
knows where it's at every single time.
Facial expression galore.
I love that man to death. But he celebrated National Tight End Day in a big way. 6 receptions, 128 yards, and that big TD. Woo, man. And I'm glad, Avery, because I have him on a couple of my fantasy squads and I needed him.
Yeah. Yeah. I unfortunately don't. I have Evan Ingram, so.
Ouch.
Yeah.
Sorry for your loss. He's probably the one tight end that did not have a fantastic day on National Tight End Day. Although they had a record for, what was it, receptions and touchdowns and all that stuff on National Tight End Day.
Yeah, he had one catch. He had a touchdown. I got like 12 points out of him. He was useful this week.
Oh, there you go. Well, there you go. So he contributed to National Tight End.
Yeah, I still lost, but you know.
Well, so you figure you've got Ayuk down, right? You've got Debo down. Juwan Jennings is down. Like you're dealing with like everybody that's been on the bench waiting to get their turn. Now they get their turn. You needed George Kittle to step up in this day, especially against a Cowboys team that was allowing tight ends to have success up until that point. So
yeah,
needed that performance from him.
Agreed. I think he is going to be the one that needs to step up like a lot now that Ayuk is out and we have Pearsall. And Debo, I don't know if he's still having problems with that pneumonia, but he might be on and off because it's Debo. So I feel like George Kittle, in a way, is going to need to have the biggest step up role for the remainder of the season.
100%. Although, how about Debo for stepping up through pneumonia? I had a buddy of mine who got pneumonia, and there was no way that like 2 or 3 days later he was out playing a football game. That dude was in the hospital a week and a half. So
that's insane.
Kudos to Debo. 4 catches, 15 yards for Debo. I'm sorry, that was rushes. 4 carries for 15 yards for Debo. The receiving total for Debo 4 for 71 with pneumonia. Avery.
With pneumonia. You can convince me to get out of bed.
I was going to say the same thing. There's no way I'm even raising a finger if I have a sniffle, let alone pneumonia.
I sneezed once. I'm in bed all day.
These guys, highly trained athletes. And you know, Debo got paid a couple of years ago, and he's still playing through that contract as well. But that, to me, right there is the kind of performance that you love to see out of a human being, let alone a player like Debo, because there were times where he was running a route and I was like, that dude's going to collapse right then and there.
Yeah. I think they need to savor his playing time a little bit, but also be smart about it.
I concur. Let's talk about the running back in this game. Isaac Guerendo coming in. JP going down. 14 carries for Guerendo, 85 yards and a touchdown. 6.1 yards per carry with a 19-yard long run. 6.1 yards, though, Avery. That shows me, one, that Guerendo can get it done, but two, that offensive line was blowing people up.
Yeah. I'm real surprised on our offensive line play recently. I think Colt McKivitz, he's had some rough patches, but he's getting the job done. And especially Dominic Pooney, the rookie. Love that guy. He's going to be the next Quentin Nelson. Guarantee it.
Yeah, as long as they keep opening doors up for these guys, and then not just him, but Purdy too. I mean, the reason that Purdy was able to get out there is because, not one, he escaped the pocket, but two, they made it to where he could escape the pocket.
Yeah, and I think that's also a huge part because Purdy is able to use his legs. But it also might be because the pocket collapsed maybe a little too quick. But you know, we're not gonna talk about it. It's good. It's good play by Purdy. It's all that matters.
Yeah, we'll just kind of gloss right over that. You know what?
Yeah.
Yeah, but for Guerendo now, if Mason continues to be hobbled. I mean, I haven't seen anything on that yet. I'm sure he'll probably come back next week. But we know how good it's like. For whatever reason, running backs on the I guess it's Shanahan, right?
It is Shanahan, I think.
I don't know. Well, I mean, we're watching it play out in front of us, right?
Yeah.
So it's Shanahan.
Like, it has to be, maybe.
But yeah, so Garendo entered in the second period. What am I? Hockey second quarter after Jordan or Mason went down with that injury. But yeah, I mean, good on him though. He really looked solid. It was a game where he wasn't just 3 yards on a cloud of dust. This dude was ripping them off 6 yards at a time and just asserting the dominance that they needed to assert because you're right. 10-6, Avery, that game could have very well gone the other direction if the Niners hadn't come out swinging after the half.
Yeah. Yeah, and they almost made a comeback in the fourth quarter of the game. Like Dak just where CeeDee Lamb down there somewhere. And he was. I'll tell you what. But at the end of the day, it's Dak Prescott and Mike McCarthy. And it's Fred Warner and the Niners defense. And straight 4 and out. It was beautiful to watch.
Yeah, and that's what you're looking for too. And let's talk about that defense. Something that went great was the Niners defense for the most part. Like you said, they made it close at the end, but I think that was a lot of chuck and ducks to CeeDee Lamb.
It was.
Anything else was that, but Niners defense allowed 236 passing yards, only 56 rushing yards on the day, but more importantly, 2 interceptions, 2 sacks. Gotta love it. That rush defense, vicious.
Even without Javon Hargrave.
Even without Javon Hargrave. Even with the patchwork defense that we put out there, they're still able to stop the rush. And then a lot of those passing yards, Avery, like you alluded to earlier, is just the fact that he was finding CeeDee Lamb late.
Yeah, he was. He didn't do it fast enough. And really one led to a Diamador Lenore. I love that guy.
Yeah, he's actually, so when you talk about that secondary too, that's been one of the, especially over the last, I guess, 3 or 4 seasons, where you have been very, very scared when a quarterback goes deep on the secondary because we've given huge plays in the secondary.
So many, like the days when we had Jaquiski Tartt and Jimmy Ward back there, and like Akilla Witherspoon, and I was terrified, but we still beat the Cowboys.
That's all that matters. Well, and it wasn't just that; it was either they give up the big play or they give up the pass
PI, or they drop an interception to go to the Super Bowl.
Oh, stop! You're bringing too much bad blood. But yeah, no, it's tough. It's tough. All this defense is though 6th in total rushing yards allowed, 105.8 yards per game, 10th in total as far as the yards per game in passing, and then they got the 10 interceptions, which actually puts them 2nd in the league in interceptions. Which, again, like I said a couple seasons ago, if you were told me we were tied for 2nd in the league in interceptions, I'd have told you you're crazy. But I'd taken it.
And I think a lot of it is the new defensive coordinator that is not Steve Wilks. I think he has a better understanding of how to use the Niners defense instead of because Steve Wilks was more of a DB focused, and I forgot our guy's new name, but he's definitely more focused around the D-line linebackers, and I think it's helping out a lot because Fred Warner's having a Defensive Player of the Year season.
Oh, that dude is on fire right now. And think about, first and foremost, how many defensive coordinators we have been through over the last couple of seasons because they get poached to be head coaches somewhere.
And then it ends up being Aaron Rodgers, who's the GM, and not Robert Saleh.
Oh, poor guy. You dance all over Aaron Rodgers' grave.
Yeah.
No, that's a tough situation for Robert. I was like, if I'm John Lynch, my first phone call straight to Robert. Hey, Robert.
Yeah, literally, that's the first thing I thought. Oh, Robert Saleh's fired. We better call him back up. Get him back to San Francisco.
Yeah, look,
we need you.
For you. I got a ticket right here for you.
Yeah,
back.
Exactly.
So, but we didn't really talk much about what went wrong on offense, only because I think so much went right on offense. I would have liked to see probably a little more chemistry, but I mean, by and by, a lot of good stuff went right with the offense. But
it was more. It was kind of an ugly win in a way, just especially in the red zone. Like it's so hard to watch in the red zone. Like we can get down the field just fine, and we just hit the red zone. It's just we don't know what we're doing. That's where McCaffrey really comes in clutch. And so I think with Kyle Shanahan, he needs to get deep in that playbook and figure out how to score, maybe like a Debo motion or something like that. And yeah, it's just not good in the red zone.
And like you said, you miss McCaffrey in situations like
Yeah.
that. There's just no way if McCaffrey's in there, then that opens up a big, huge amount of stuff that you can do within the red zone. But yeah, I mean, I guess you got to get a little more creative. I don't know, the water boy with the playbook. He's got to dig deep into that playbook. That's Coach Klein's got to figure out how to get into the end zone. I feel like I'm a Canadian football fan, and there's a team that I like, and it's called the Ottawa Redblacks, and they do the same thing. They are so clutch at getting into opponent's territory, getting deep in opponent's territory, and then their kicker basically carries the show. Lewis Ward kicks field goals, so
nice.
That's where we're at. And speaking of kicking field goals, Anders Carlson, a perfect 3 for 3 on the night for field goals, a perfect 3 for 3 on extra points. This guy, he again in a wheel of injuries.
Yeah,
we lose our kicker.
2 tackling kickers.
Oh man, why?
I don't know. You saw Jake Moody do it, and then you go and do it, and it's like, yeah, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me.
Yeah, I know, and I know you want to get on Sports Center for making a tackle, but I'd rather you get on Sports Center for nailing a 56-yard field goal to win the game. That's what I'd rather see.
Please.
Yeah. Carlson joins the team a couple of weeks ago. He's 5 for 5 so far on all of his field goal attempts. Perfect there. Missed 1 extra point. He's 3 for 4 in his last 2 games since joining San Francisco. But that's a good bright spot because Avery, I know you said that it's tough to get in the red zone and not score. However, it's tougher. I don't like that view. It's tougher to get into the red zone and not score. So for having Carlson hit all the field goals on the night, I mean that's the difference, right? It's a 6-point game at the end of the day.
It is, and him hitting his field goals with us is real nice because he wasn't doing it with the Packers. So I appreciate that, Andres Carlson.
So I know we both play. Madden. It's funny because that's probably the position I pay the least attention to when I'm drafting or when I go through franchise mode, like I'm signing all these big, high-priced receivers and and then the kicker. Like I'll just go to the free agent market, the cheapest kicker I can find.
Exactly.
I feel so bad.
or Brandon Aubrey's just there and you sign him.
Oh, I love Brandon Aubrey though. Like Brandon Aubrey was a was he UFL kicker or a USFL?
He was a XFL, I'm pretty sure.
XFL, that's what it was. I'm getting all my leagues mixed up again because it's the end of NASCAR season, and so my brain is fully fried. But yeah, so that's Dallas. Look, at the end of that, we beat Dallas, and that's kind of all that matters for this one. I don't care how sloppy it was. I don't care how ugly it was. I'd have felt way worse if we'd have left without beating Dallas.
Yeah, definitely. And that could honestly be a seeding game. If, let's say, the Commanders are pretenders and lose a lot of the games, and then the Cowboys somehow make it because they somehow always do, but they'll somehow lose, we could have a potentially better seeding in them and have home field advantage. Because I think the Niners are good enough to eventually win out the division. I don't think the Cardinals, Seahawks, or Rams are better. I think when it's later in the season, I think those are easy wins for us now that we've got our idea and what team we are, what we're doing. When we get McCaffrey back, and hopefully Hufanga and it'll they'll find a way.
Yeah, we
I
need a
believe.
healthy team, just a healthy team. That's all I want
Yeah.
for Christmas. Like, if I can get an early Christmas present, it's for the entire team to just be healthy. Like, that's all.
Please.
Santa, if you're
Yes.
listening, like that's all. That's the only thing on my list right now. Just give me a healthy Niners team.
We had it last year, but you know,
Again.
I guess those non-holding calls on the refs on Nick Bosa.
I know, but you know what is funny though? I think as Niners fans, we cry for those. But if
Mhm.
you're a fan of any other team, you're like, that wasn't holding. Like I do the same thing. Like if it's a team that I don't like, I'm like, I hate that. That's blah blah blah. And
Yeah.
they're like, well, that's not holding when it's my team. I'm like, that wasn't really holding, was it? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's Nick Bosa.
All right. So just take a quick look at the standings as we get set for next week. The Niners now tied for first. Well, actually, it's a three-way tie, 4-4 all the way across the board between the Cardinals, us, and the Seahawks. Of course, because the Cardinals beat us, they've got the first place spot for now. LA. This shades, Avery, of the 7-9 squabbles that we used to get in back in the day. But
Yeah.
everybody.
That was weird times. Weird times.
Very weird times, but we're here. We're all close. I mean, everybody's within obviously the three-way tie, and then LA within a game of us. So, I mean, you're right. It's time to win out the division because that's the only way that you can ensure that you are going to be playoff bound.
Yeah, and I think that should be the main focus at least. I mean, I obviously just winning games is just what you want to do in general, but at a more sophisticated look at it, you got to think division and this the importance of each game. It's yeah.
And it's not going to be easy down the stretch, too, because, again, we have lost to the Cardinals once already this season.
Yeah.
We have lost to the Rams this season, right? We did beat the Seahawks, but, like, the two teams that we should have beaten handily, we lost to. So now you come down the stretch, and you've got a week a game against the Rams coming up, and then the game against the Cardinals is the last game of the season. That could very well be, if the Cardinals continue to do well, a game that matters for this NFC West. So, yeah, you got to win
out. It's more important than I can express.
I think it's more important than anybody can express right now. But before we get to those guys, we have to get past the Buccaneers. They too are sitting at 4-4 right now. They are 2-3 at home. We're traveling to Tampa Bay to play them. So, is this a winnable game, Avery?
I believe so. Now that Mike Evans and Chris Godwin are out, I think that's going to be detrimental to what Baker Mayfield can do because he's got Russell Gage out there. That's all I know. No disrespect, but I'm not a Tampa Bay Buccaneers follower. Anyways, their defense has not been splendid. They've given up 40 points to Kirk Cousins and a lot of points to other teams. So I think if the Niners just run the ball and then hit off play action, hit a little Debo screen, Kittle screen, maybe not go into the red zone and score on the 21-yard line, then we'll be good.
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna have to run the ball. That is first and foremost. Whether it's Garindo, whether it's Mason, whether it's 15 other different backs that are waiting in the wings to be able to do this, it's gonna have to come from there because with the receiving core the way it is for us, especially too. I mean, this is two receiving cores that are pretty much limping in to the game together, so it's gonna be tough. And you look at Tampa Bay's rushing yards allowed per game, 131.6 rushing yards per game, bottom third of the league in that category. So there's yards to be had against this Tampa Bay defense. It's just you got to get it on the ground.
Definitely. And I think Vita Vea is going to could potentially have a good game, could potentially not. We just got to double team him every single time. I'm not going to lie to you. He might be a little bit of a roadblock, but
I think we're just the better team, and I think we should come out with the win.
I agree about the better team for sure, because if you've, this Tampa Bay team, I think is played above its pay grade in certain circumstances. And so, you gotta just beat the teams that you have to beat. And this is a limping in Tampa Bay team that we know. I don't know where the Baker Mayfield came from that started this season with Tampa Bay. I don't know where he was the whole time for his career, but
Yeah,
I think he's going to turn back into that pumpkin. I know it's not October anymore, but I think he's going to turn into a pumpkin again. And I think our defense especially, is going
yeah,
to just their way with that whole team.
yeah. We need to not line Nick Bosa up on Tristan Wirfs and then just have him feast.
Yeah, he does. He's gonna. I think he's gonna have a good time against Baker Mayfield. And yeah, this rush defense. I know Tampa Bay has been pretty solid running the ball so far this season with Bucky and Rashad, and being able to use that rotation between those guys. But yeah, I mean, look, when you got a guy that's averaging 3.8 yards per game and 5.2 yards per game, that's not going to get it done against the Niners defense.
No, is not. Even though, again, we don't have Javon Hargrave and our deep tackle depth is not the greatest, we will still find ways to stop the run because we have Fred Warner. And yeah, Nick Bosa is the edge, but he can also stop the run. And Devondre Campbell is a great run stopper. That's what he's there for. And also to back up Greenlaw for when he comes back, which is also going to be super important because, man, do I miss Dre Greenlaw. Holy.
Everybody misses Dre Greenlaw. I'm telling you, that's it. Everybody, we just miss the guys that are playmakers. And the fact that we're still at 500 with all the injuries that we've had this year, I mean, we very well could be looking at a much, much worse season. And so just hats off to that organization to be able to play 500 ball with everybody on the injured list.
Yeah, but I still think we should. The only game we should have really lost to was the Chiefs and probably the Vikings. We probably deserve to lose to the Vikings.
Once Justin Jefferson went off for that touchdown, we deserve to lose to them.
Yeah. No, that was not it.
So, all right. Any last takeaways, Avery, as we start to wrap this portion of the show up, and we'll turn our attention to next week against Tampa Bay?
No. Let's just head right into Tampa Bay. I think we're on track.
Yeah, we need to. I think you're right. I think we are on track. I think there's a lot of momentum to be gained by beating the Cowboys. It always makes you feel good. It's almost like a win against the Rams or a win against the Cardinals or the Seahawks, who, by the way, we beat as well. So two big wins this season to take into it, even gutted. But yeah, Avery, this is going to be a fun week of football. Certainly hoping to see a much better overall performance for these guys.
Yeah, hopefully they don't have no jet lag.
No, not going to Tampa Bay. Hopefully they're all settled in and doing nicely. This is an early morning game, so 10 a.m. for us on the West Coast.
Okay.
So, yeah, there's they got the early game on the East Coast time, so we'll keep an eye on that one.
Yeah, I think they've had a lot of primetime games this season, and they need just an early game.
They need a nice little early game so I can sit down the rest of the time and drink Mai Tais on the Florida coast.
Yeah.
You know what they need to stop doing though? Avery is giving us Jets primetime games. That's what they need.
Jets primetime games. That is true.
That's got to stop.
I mean, the hype was there, but then the Devontae Adams move was kind of desperate, and I mean, it's just kind of like a Comedy Central.
Yeah, it's not pretty. It's definitely one of the things. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like watching a family show every Thursday or Sunday night or Monday.
Where the hapless Aaron Rodgers tries to coax his kids along to try to get to soccer practice on time, but Junior's going to go to the bathroom it's not. Not.
Come on, Alan Lazard. Come on, Devontae. Let's go to New York.
Let's go, Tyler Conklin. Let's
go. Thomas Morstead.
Oh my God. Hey, Breece Hall, you want to come along too for the ride?
Yeah.
Gotta love it. All right. Well, then I say that's a good place to put a pin in this show. And like we said, we'll come back next week to talk about that Buccaneers game, and we'll look ahead to the next week. But this has been the first episode of So You Like the Niners. Been exciting. Avery, your first time podcasting ever. We kind of buried that lead. How was it?
It was an experience. I'll say that. I was like kind of staring at myself the whole entire time, just trying to brainstorm the next sentence.
And now you're that's the life of the podcaster, my friend. You
Right?
always stare at yourself and try to think of what you're going to say next.
Yeah. And I'm like looking at my hair. Does it look okay? Is it?
Oh, you
Does
did
it look
get the
weird?
fresh cut. No, you did get the fresh cut. So
I did, but the camera's flipped, so.
It's all good. All right, Avery. Well, then we will send everybody on their way. Thanks for joining us for this first episode. We hope you enjoyed it. We will definitely be back next time.
Yes.
Yeah, Avery, tell everybody goodbye.
Goodbye, Niners.
Goodbye, Niners fan. We'll see you very, very soon.